One thing MAGA does not like, they do not seem to like people who are pedophiles, which, I'm with them on that one. Um, Another thing they do not seem to like, and I'm kind of with them on this too, is reckless foreign interventions for no particular reason. So I don't quite see what Trump gets out of this. Yes, it's distracting, but not necessarily in a good way.
That we've been doing this a long time, and I just am constantly buoyed and elevated by your innocence, your bright-eyed innocence, looking for a rationale, looking for it all to make sense. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. You know who else is lucky? I mean, if the Venezuelans are unlucky, Ed, Chuck Schumer, he's lucky, or is he lucky? Maybe this was all politically calculated. But like, there were 8 Democrats who were getting the crap kicked out of them 48 hours ago for folding on this thing. And all of a sudden now everybody's talking about it. I go to the New York Times, and the Republicans apparently just released 20,000 more Epstein memos, which undoubtedly are all about Bill Clinton. But anyway, what do you think about the good fortune of Chuck Schumer?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got to be lucky in politics to survive, and I imagine he will exploit this luck. Um, I mean, I think the Republicans, Comer's decision to release these is a measure, however, skewed they are towards Democrats who were Epstein associates. It's a measure of the pressure on them because I don't think it's Trump requesting anything to be released. He wants this dead and buried, and he keeps saying, "You still talking about Epstein?" Um, and Marjorie Taylor Greene has some sway, even though there are only 4 Republicans allegedly for this petition, a discharge petition. Um, I think she speaks for more than 4. I think she reflects a much larger part of the base, and the base, no doubt, have this totemic attachment to the Epstein files, partly because of their conspiratorialism, but partly because they believe they really do exist and they really will damage liberals. There's a conflation here between how MAGA sees the Epstein files and the original Comet Pizza sort of vision of what the deep state gets up to. Which it's going to be very hard to dispel. It's so central to sort of MAGA theology, and more powerful for the fact that some of this is true. There really has been a cover-up for Epstein, and there hasn't been accountability for the system that protected this man. So, I mean, Schumer, yeah. How can we sustain anger or energy against Schumer if that's the sort of direction when there's this to think about? This is just such a different scale, and probably the shutdown is now serving Democrats politically, and they will get some momentum. Problem is, I don't think Schumer's capable of prosecuting that momentum, probably wouldn't want to sustain it.
They're not going to get anything out of it.
I doubt Schumer. I mean, he ought to be making it a cause célèbre, his own. I doubt he'll do that.
They're not going to get anything out of it. But, the flip side of all that, and by the way, they do say the deep state goes to Comet Pizza. I've never been to Comet Pizza. You guys, I've never been. I did once
Really?
have dinner with Ed next door to Comet Pizza.
I once, for my sins, had to host a birthday party for a whole bunch of, 12-year-olds at Comet Pizza.
See, that
And
supports all
there were
those
no
theories.
pedophiles in sight, but I will tell you there were a lot of shrieking, giggling adolescents running around and chasing each other.
Glad that phase of my life has passed. But it does, however, raise another question, which I think is important. I think it's, we don't normally talk about these things, but this is significant as it pertains to power in the most powerful country in the world. There are a bunch of people, Democrats, who are like, release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files. And yet every time I read the Epstein files, I go, yeah, I knew that 15 years ago. So what is it that they think is actually going to happen, Rosa? I mean, the Epstein files could contain pictures of pedophilia, and it would not be surprised. In fact, there's a guy out there who said that he's seen the pictures. And so we know this is all real. Why are people harping on this? Why do they think that the thing that has not brought him down in 25 years is going to bring him down next week?
You mean why are Democrats harping on it as opposed to why are the MAGA
Yeah,
folks harping
yeah.
on it?
Well, MAGA, Democrat, but Democrats I
I
meant
mean, I
particularly.
mean,
I mean,
I
it's
think on
naive, isn't it?
the MAGA side, it is the same Comet Pizza conspiracy theory. It's the QAnon craziness of the entire world is run by a pedophile ring, and we just have to wait for the ultimate evidence to be revealed, which, I don't think it is. I do not think the entire world is run by a vast pedophile ring. Although I think Jeffrey Epstein is a creep, and a whole lot of powerful men were also creeps, Democrats and Republicans. And I hope they all have their reputations thoroughly tarnished. Why do people on the left have this fantasy that this will be the thing? Because people enjoy wishful thinking, right? I mean, I think you're absolutely right that why would there's nothing new here. We already knew that Trump was a sexual predator. We already knew that Trump at a bare minimum has made all kinds of inappropriate comments relating to underage women. So, is there more there? Would it shock anybody in the entire universe? I don't think so. I don't think it would shock the MAGA people either, because they know all this stuff too, right? And they either don't care because they're all in on, go pedophilia, corruption, venality, and general evilness, or because they believe that, flawed vessels, that's the way it goes. But yeah, I do think this, sorry, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I genuinely wonder, I truly wonder, and I wish some of our ace reporters would pose this question to some hardcore MAGA people. When the New York Times does their little focus groups, I wish they would ask this question of people who are Trump supporters or hardcore Trump supporters. I always wonder, like, what if anything would change their mind? Is there anything that Trump could do that would change their mind? And because so far it seems like the answer to that is no, and maybe that's consistent with the broken vessel, the flawed vessel theory, right? That it doesn't matter, that they're perfectly willing to accept that he is a disgusting specimen of a human being, and that nothing would surprise them. But that's not why they're voting for him. But I feel like, for me, I think for most normal people, like even the political leaders who I admire most, when they have done disgusting things, my support for them has gone down, right? I mean, Bill Clinton, that was pretty appalling. And it didn't seem that complicated to say so. And I can think of plenty of other things where Democratic politicians have done things that I've been appalled by, and I've thought, I'm really disappointed. That's a terrible thing. And it does seem it. I do just find it genuinely kind of baffling, Trump's resilience. And I do always wonder, is there anything? What do you think? I mean, is there anything that, or is it just that nobody believes anything anymore? Everything is fake news. Why is he so resilient? It is baffling.
Ed?
Okay, I think I have a slightly different interpretation of this. I think there is a reason why he's doing everything possible to suppress any association. I'm not suggesting that he abused underage girls, or that there's any evidence for that. Maybe there's some prima facie things pointing to it being, it was something that wouldn't surprise us. But there is a reason why he's trying to bury this, and he's got Mike Johnson, he's got Kash Patel, he's got Pam Bondi, all of them doing everything possible to block any further revelations about this. And he had 1,000 FBI agents, the DOJ did, the FBI did earlier this year, going through their evidence, and it took them days. And they were looking for Trump's name. And Pam Bondi was a few weeks later forced to admit that, yes, Trump's name was there, but there's nothing there. Trust me, we're not releasing anything. And anybody who hints at releasing anything is Trump's enemy. That's got to tell us something.
What does it tell us?
Kleptocracy going on. He's not pretending to hide. He's not suppressing anything. He doesn't suppress like demolishing the East Wing. I mean, he's not particularly shy of all the other crimes he's permitting. But I do think, and I think this does say something about the median opinion out there, even amongst maybe some MAGA, but that the American public as a whole would treat this totally differently to a Stormy Daniels revelation, or even saying something creepy about his daughter. If he's helping cover up the crimes of his former friend, very close friend, Jeffrey Epstein, I think that would cross a line for most of America in a way that the other stuff about Trump didn't.